The news at 5:45 with Alistair Stewart.
Old and cold will get government heating payment this week. 5 more die as the big freeze brings more snow. The government is to pay out the £5 emergency heating allowance.
Publicity surrounding this issue grew in strength.
Have died as a direct result of the cold. In Christchurch, Dorset, a 72-year-old widow died after being found in her ice-cold home. Police had been alerted by her son in California, who was worried she wasn't answering the telephone. In Caldecott, South Wales, an 84-year-old widow was found dead in front of an unlit fire. In Fife, an elderly man was found dead in the snow near Ceres. On the Isle of Sheppey, a driver died from heart failure in his lorry, and an elderly woman died in a fire at Lebanon. It's thought she was trying to change a gas cylinder on a portable heater.
By today, the snow and the bitter cold were seriously threatening lives. But as well as the tragedies, there were happy endings, such as the rescue by RAF helicopter of a pregnant woman who'd gone into a difficult labour in a snowbound Berwick-on-Tweed. She's now in hospital at Newcastle. The helicopter also rescued an 82-year-old man with heart trouble and a boy with a broken leg. Scotland had the heaviest falls of snow and was nearly cut off from the rest of Britain. Police virtually pleaded with drivers not to venture out into the blizzards, calling road conditions atrocious. 21,000 secondary school children were sent home around Edinburgh alone, and 70% of Glasgow schools were shut. In East Anglia, driving conditions were described as difficult to impossible. All coach services had to be withdrawn in the region, and that meant more drivers ventured out on the roads, with the snow, cold and ice taking the inevitable toll. Rail services were severely cut back. The work of clearing the tracks has had to continue round the clock. The motorists of Kent came in for the iciest blasts of criticism today. Snowplows helped some of them get through blocked sections of the M20, but earlier a convoy of cars had actually driven the wrong way up the motorway. They'd apparently come across a section of the London-bound carriageway clogged with snow, so they cut across the central reservation. Police called it an idiotic and dangerous exploit. Tonight, there's a seemingly endless line of commuters' cars and heavy vehicles at a virtual standstill on the M20, heading out of London. It's been caused by a series of minor accidents, such as jackknife lorries, which, in atrocious conditions, left the emergency services unable to cope. Rail passengers are also having a grim time this evening, with all the services out of London said to be badly disrupted. Amid the misery, a more cheerful bit of news came when a premature baby was successfully airlifted from Eastbourne to a South London playing field, incubator and all. He is now warmly tucked up at Guy's Hospital.
Despite the continuing fall in overnight temperatures, the bad weather has done little to halt the nightly search for refuge by thousands of the country's down and outs. Underneath Charing Cross Railway Bridge in London, it seems that no matter how cold it is, the numbers willing to spend their nights huddled under blankets and sleeping bags handed out by the Salvation Army has increased. As volunteers distribute hot soup and sandwiches, we noticed a dramatic rise in the number of young people now prepared to spend their nights on the streets of Britain's cities.
I mean, I know people who've been down here 2 years. They've got nowhere to go. I'd rather
The rails as the big freeze bites even deeper. Towns cut off and commuters told, go home. Killers. Good evening to you. Towns and villages are completely blocked off and panic buying has started after parts of Kent today disappeared under 3 feet of snow. Sevenoaks and Orpington are badly hit with snow drifting. The Isle of Sheppey is also still cut off. The army are ferrying in medicine. Some remote villages are running out of foodstuffs, and there was a queue of 200 at Sheppey for supplies.
On the railways, there's severe disruption. We'll bring you a complete picture in a moment. For those travelling to Kent, there are hardly any services, with trains and puts freezing. Most London country bus and coach services are off the roads. Motorways have been closed for long periods.
On the M20, police slapped drivers who drove the wrong way up the motorway to avoid drifts.
Take it easy. If you don't have to go out, don't. If you've got some spare time on your hands, check your car over thoroughly.
Obviously, conditions here are very bad tonight. With those bleak prospects, back to the studio.
Situation for rail travellers tonight is getting worse by the minute. Services to North Kent have virtually come to a halt. Those heading beyond Bromley, Orpington and Sevenoaks were told to leave London by 3 o'clock this afternoon or face a night in the capital. Intercity services from Paddington and King's Cross are being cancelled. From Victoria, Network South East is disrupted after a points failure at East Croydon. For the picture at Waterloo, this report now from Paul Larsman.
Just before dusk at Waterloo, the beginning of the rush hour and hardly a train in sight. And this is London's busiest commuter lifeline at the busiest time of day. North and west of the capital, things are considerably better. Passengers face delays, but there are trains. Those heading south, and particularly for Kent, cannot rely on Network South East to get them home tonight. The timetable's been thrown out of the window at Victoria, Charing Cross and here at Waterloo. Some trains are running, but the times on the indicator boards are increasingly fictional. Worst hit of all, the Kent coast. British Rail warn anyone there with ideas of a night on the town to be prepared to include a night at a hotel in the bill. Well, this scene here at Waterloo tonight tells the story. Precious few trains running and crowds of commuters scanning the indicator boards in hope and frustration. With me is British Rail Operations Manager Trevor Adams. Trevor, you've been asked this before, you'll be asked it again. Why, when we get a bit of snow, do we get all this chaos?
Well, we haven't got the bit of snow this time. We've got the conditions which are the worst that we've seen in 40 years or more. We are coping as well as we can, but the conditions are very bad. The very, very low temperatures are giving us immense problems, and the sheer depth of snow, particularly in Kent, are bringing things almost to a standstill there.
Will these people here get home tonight?
Oh yes, these people will get home tonight. People later on in the evening will have difficulty in delay, and as far as tomorrow is concerned, the forecast tonight is not good at all. And my advice tomorrow is only travel if you really have to. We will do our best to get you to your destination, but things look bad according to the forecast.
Well, with that bleak forecast, then I'll hand you back to the studio.
The bad weather has been taking its toll, especially on the elderly. One 90-year-old woman died after her clothing caught fire as she tried to keep warm. The ambulance service has been fully stretched with road accidents and treating those who've been injured in falls. Crews have appealed to the public to call them only in the most dire emergencies.
Here at the ambulance headquarters in Waterloo, they've been receiving up to 200 calls a day. That's way above the average. One call just in, a 93-year-old woman here suffering from hypothermia in Paddington. An ambulance is on its way. Now, with me is Divisional Officer Hugh Chambers. Hugh, what is the scale of the operation here?
The scale of the operation is that we can't...
And in the borders, the cold spell has triggered the government's special heating payments. The eligible people living in Gala Shields will be able to claim the extra cash for last week.
The western tip of Cornwall was almost at a standstill today. Although there were no fresh snowfalls overnight, strong winds caused heavy drifting to frustrate the efforts of 200 men working to keep roads open. But some communities on the south coast and on the Lizard Peninsula remained cut off. Motorists in the Helston area were warned not to attempt to drive. High on Goonhilly Downs, staff at British Telecom's satellite Earth station have been stranded in their control centre.
We've got 5 that have been here since 8 o'clock on Sunday night, myself included. About another 8 that have been here since yesterday morning. And we've got 3 that arrived this morning who set off around about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. We're just grabbing sleep when we can, where we can. But we're managing.
Temperatures in Cornwall are forecast to remain below freezing with further snow likely.
Picture around the country. Well, the government's decision to pay the special £5
who both faced disciplinary action over an incident in
the weather picture are only in detail, but that particular detail is important, of course, to the folk in question. For instance, last night and this morning, heavier snowfall reached southeast London. It reached Surrey about as far west as Guildford as well. And looking down from space here, you can see that whilst the cloud is still streaming in on the northeasterly wind, in most parts of the country, it's penetrating farther west today than it did yesterday. That'll continue, but also in our part of the country, we're becoming increasingly at risk from the cloud that you can see over France there. Now, that could carry snow in tomorrow. Now into detail, and tonight, first of all, don't expect any improvement. There's going to be a severe frost again, further snow showers too. And then tomorrow, well, another very cold day, the temperature well below 0 again, and a keener wind too, and more snow to come. Now, that snow tomorrow is most likely around the morning rush hour. The southernmost counties of England are most at risk, but the risk to the Thames area is just about as high. It's well to know that. And then the rest of the week, well, no respite. It's going to stay very cold, and although there will be a different risk from day to day, I'll have to bear snow in mind as well. Andrew.
Well, thank you, Jack. Not much comfort there. And the freeze, of course, means supplies of some goods are now short. In the shop, stocks of electric heaters, pipe lagging, and even thermal underwear are running low. Some stores have sold out. Elsewhere, there have been long queues.
There's been a big rush to keep warm. The West End store, which claims to have the world's biggest range of winter wear undies, has tripled sales. Their success means...
At the AA.
The warning from the AA operations room in Stanmore is that all main routes in Essex and Kent are treacherous. The M25 and M20 are both partially blocked. Even in central London, roads are frozen over. The gritters can't cope, so don't go outside.
The rail news at 6:25, virtually a commuter standstill here at Waterloo, at Charing Cross and Victoria. If you're cooking dinner for someone coming south of London by train tonight, be prepared to put it back in the oven.
Hugh, you're on the front line. Advice from the ambulance service.
Keep warm, don't go out unless you really have to. If you're faced with emergency, call us, but please don't call an ambulance unnecessarily.
Okay, back to the studio.
Thank you, Tina, and that's about it. We'll have more weather and travel news in our late headlines with Robin Houston right after news at 10. For now, from Jack, John, Greg...
About the elderly trying to keep warm in the sub-zero temperatures. Pensioners are being warned to take special care with heaters after an 88-year-old woman suffered severe burns after getting too close to her electric fire. She'd lain in agony for 3 hours at her home in Broadstairs because neighbours thought her screams were seagulls calling. Kent police are now warning motorists who abandon their vehicles on the motorways that they risk prosecution and put at hazard the emergency services.
In Essex, it's the worst.
More people have died from the cold and the winds are getting stronger, whipping up towering snowdrifts and chilling the bitter temperatures dangerously. Police are warning people in many areas not to leave home except for a life or death trip. On the West Yorkshire Greater Manchester border, driving the blizzard southwards. The outlook is still grim.
In fact, on the face of it, it doesn't look too bad, with temperatures down to -4, -5, and up in the north, you can see, in one or two places, temperatures above freezing. In fact, I had a phone call from a fellow on the Isle of Mull this morning saying it's not too bad up here. He's just going down the harbour with just a pullover on. But it's temperatures aren't everything, because it's the wind and the low temperatures that really make it feel very cold indeed. And this is the wind chill equivalent temperature, and these strong northeasterly winds are making it feel this cold. So if you're out and about, and this is why it's probably not worth sledging, it really will be feeling down in the south as though it's something like about -16 degrees Celsius. Well, that's what the weather picture looks like at the moment. We've split really into three areas. In the north, there's a lot of snow showers around. On the eastern side, they're very heavy and they're drifting in those strong winds too. Not very much in the north, near the southern coast, and up on the eastern side particularly, but many of them, I think, are dying away inland. And as you can see, it's going to be a very cold night again, a severe frost, with those drifting snow around, particularly over southern and eastern parts of the country. Well, the weather map looks like that, which you can see down in the south, perhaps if anything colder than today, but the showers, although quite heavy up in this eastern, northeastern part, I think down in the southeast and in many other places, more in the way of snow flurries than anything else, and a chance of seeing brighter weather coming into that western side. And then as we go through into the week